guys, Teague here. You may know me from my weekly YouTube news series, TORWars Weekly Digest. What am I doing here, you ask? I'm here to deliver the news. Let's cut the chatter and check out what happened this week in Tor. BioWare did give some solid clarifications on how the heroic space mission dailies are reset. Each day, Tuesday through Sunday, one of the heroic space missions will have its associated daily mission available. This mission will be changed at 6 AM Central Time and will follow the schedule you see here. One important thing to note, once the daily mission is changed, the mission from the previous day will be removed from your quest log, so you can't hoard all the daily missions and finish them all at once at the end of the week. If you were hoping that character copy to the PTS was a sign that server transfers were coming soon, you may be slightly disappointed. Joveth Gonzalez says there is still no ETA for character transfers, but that the forums will know as soon as they have more information. With character copy to the PTS coming so far ahead of schedule, I would wager some money that we'll be seeing character transfers with Rise of the Hutt Cartel. In non-game related news, EA held its quarterly investor call on Thursday, and while there was not much talk about SWTOR specifically, it does sound like free-to-play has been successful thus far. Revenue from extra content and free-to-play increased 50% in the quarter, with SWTOR being highlighted as one of the contributors. EA seems cautiously optimistic about the future of the Old Republic, and I think the next 2 quarters will give real indications about the long-term financial success of the game. Free-to-play retention and the success of the first expansion will be critical for BioWare. That's all the headlines from this week. If you liked this segment, make sure to check out my YouTube page at youtube.com/thegaddickteague. Until next week, this is Gaddick Teague. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Hi, this is Geldarian, and you're watching the PvP segment for TORWars TV. So, today I want to talk about the war zones and what I like about each of them, and what I dislike about each of them. And each week I will have a new topic, and you can suggest one, or I'll come up with it myself if I have to. But it'd probably be more fun if you suggested them, so send them in if you want to see me discuss your topics. So, the first war zone I want to talk about is Alderaan Civil War. Alderaan Civil War is one of my favorite war zones. It's a 3 cap point system. I'm typically a fan of those. And my favorite thing about it is that you don't have easy access to every single turret right off the bat. So it has a little bit of strategy on how you start things off. It has a little bit of strategy on how you shift forces over the course of the war zone. The thing I don't like about Alderaan Warzone is that there is no way to have a really awesome comeback without 3 capping the entire place. So that makes it a little difficult to have a really energetic comeback. For Novar Coast, the thing I like about that is that it has a really good comeback system. You can come back pretty easily, and it's quite fun to have those last minute clutch 2% comebacks. The thing I don't like about it is that it takes so long to solo cap a turret. But again, I can see how that makes sense because you have multiple people who can cap. It's just an awkward kind of system for me, and it teaches bad behavior because it's the only war zone where multiple people capping helps. So every other war zone where multiple people capping is actually a detriment. They're getting that from Novar Coast, I think. Voidstar, which is one of the other original war zones, I love that one because you have a very clear and distinct phase difference in strategy, and a lot of people don't realize this, but the point in defense is not to kill people quickly, it's to survive. And so I oftentimes like to respec in between the 2 rounds using my field respec, so I get a more defensive build so I can be a little bit more defensive. The thing I don't like about it is that last little spot where you go from the final door to the console that ends the war zone or ends that attacking phase. I don't like that it's so fast to cap because it doesn't really make sense to me. Everything else is so slow to cap, and that is so fast. I've rarely seen people being able to hold back the attacking team for any length of time on that last bit. For Huttball, my favorite part of that is that it really encourages strategy, and if you're very good at passing, if your team's really good at passing, it can be over in like 2 minutes. The bad thing is if your team sucks at passing and the other team is good at passing, then they will win in 2 minutes, not you. And, you know, it's a very team-oriented thing, I get that, but it's the one war zone where one person really can't carry the rest of them. You can't really, like, have a clutch save on something, or, you know, be really strategic in the way you apply yourself with a pug, because if you have a bad pug, you're basically done in Hotball. Finally, the new one, which is Ancient Hypergate, I love that it has that the pylons reset after every round, so it really kind of, again, gives you those clutch comeback moments in the last round when you've been losing the whole time, and you can actually achieve a really cool comeback. I do not like the fact that every time the pylons blow up, you can't get back into the doors underneath the spawn point, because sometimes you know, people will run off and they'll think they can get back under there. And I kind of get why that is, but I think they could remove that just fine. Also, the door timers seem to be extremely long, and longer than the other war zones. So, anyway, those are the 5 war zones, and those are my thoughts on them. What do you think about them? And what do you want me to talk about next time? Do you want me to talk about tips? Do you want me to talk about things I like, things I don't? Do you want me to talk about behaviors of things that I don't want to do in war zones? Or what do you want me to do? Just let me know. Leave questions or comments in the comment section below. And thank you for watching PvP segment on TORWars TV. This is Gildarian, signing off.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Community Blender, where we've been blending up topics since one episode ago. So this is our second episode of Community Blender. Today I'd like to discuss you being a nerd or a geek. First of all, do you consider yourself a nerd or a geek? I do, although I do like to do other non-nerdy, geeky things, whether that's sports or, you know, shooting my handgun or going out and hunting and things like that. I am in Texas after all. I don't have any boots on though. I just have regular shoes, some Skechers or something. I don't know what I'm wearing, but at the same time, I do consider myself a geek or a nerd. Now, back when I was young, many years ago, that term wasn't as widely accepted as it is today. So my question today is this, to kind of blend up the topic today. What is the nerdiest or geekiest thing that you've done or memorized for a particular game, a particular genre, a particular world, if you will? For example, for me, playing Star Wars The Old Republic, I went to the second fan site summit with the Mos Eisley radio crew back when I was doing podcasting on a regular basis. And one of the people that was on the tour of BioWare Studios looked up and someone asked if anyone could read Arabesh. What Arabesh, if you don't know, is the language of Star Wars. It's the alphabet that George Lucas created for his movies. It's a letter-by-letter translation, so this design equals an A, this design equals a B, this design equals a C. And there are some other variations in there, but primarily if you memorize what English letter goes with each Arabesh symbol, you can look at things in the game, look at things in Star Wars, and be able to read those, whether you're watching the Clone Wars or whatever. And I thought at the time, I was like, how nerdy is that of him to know how to read Arabesh? And it got me thinking, when I finally got into the beta and I see Arabesh written all over the place in Star Wars The Old Republic, I see, especially if you play a Republic character, when you're on, when you're on Coruscant and you're down in the Justicar district, there's all kinds of propaganda and posters and stuff all over the walls. And I started seeing Arabesh everywhere, and I was like, this has to say something. And so like when you go into a cantina sometimes, you'll see a poster, and if you read it in Arabesh, it says live music. But there's also a lot of propaganda, like I said, in the Justicar district. And so what I did is I went home and I found a website. If you type in Arabesh translation or Arabesh tests or flashcards, there's a website you can go and you can set up flashcard tests and you can set up flashcards and you can memorize Arabesh. Well, at the time, my daughter wasn't sleeping well, and so my wife or I would have to go into the room with her as she kind of went to sleep every night. And I would take my laptop in there while she was sleeping in her crib. She just wanted me or my wife in the room, and I would go through these Arabesh flashcards. I would memorize Arabesh, and so now I have a pretty good understanding and knowledge, and I can read it pretty quickly, Arabesh, inside the game, and it does add an extra element of depth. well, maybe you like Lord of the Rings, maybe you are a huge fan of World of Warcraft or other games or other genres that are out there. What's the nerdiest or geekiest thing you've done to add to your love or add to your immersion of a game? Like in Lord of the Rings, for example, the Elvish language. Have you ever learned that? So, I mean, there's things like that all of us have done, whether we want to admit it or not. So I've admitted my nerd out moment of learning Arabic, even thinking about possibly getting an Arabic tattoo one of these days because, well, at least I can translate it. I don't want to go get a tattoo that's like in Chinese, and one day when I go to China I realize that it says like pig butthole versus what I wanted it to say because I can't translate that very well. So what's the geekiest or nerdiest thing you've ever done to basically expand on the love you have for a game or a universe or a piece of fiction? Maybe even learning Klingon if you like Star Trek, something like that. So hope everybody has a great week. Hope you enjoy this week's topic. Down in the comments down below here at the TORWars TV posting, you can put your comments, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can post it there. And if you haven't noticed, I'm not all shaky this week. I actually have somebody suggested getting a mic stand and some duct tape. Well, I work at a church, so we have mic stands all over the place. But I didn't need duct tape. I kind of just nested my iPhone in the microphone clip right there. So I hope you like it better this week. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. And while you're out there this week, don't forget to blend it up in the community. Answer the question down below, and I'll see you next time, friends.
Thanks for watching episode 2 of TORWars TV. We hope you liked this one, as we tried to change up the content a little bit based off your feedback. TORWars.com has great weekly pieces, like this one, Return to the Veteran, where Josh Bury talks about starting over as a preferred player once again. Geldarian, who you saw in the PvP section this week, also writes a weekly column called The Weekly Roundup. It's a great one-stop shop for all you need to know in the world of SWTOR. You can also check out the twice-weekly TORWars podcast, where we talk about discussion topics, news, and whatever else is going on in the SWTOR community. Again, leave your comments in the show post below, and let us know what you think. Hope to see you next time.